The Aztec Empire fell 500 years ago, but you still use their inventions every single day. In 1519, the Spanish led the conquistadors into the heart of the Aztec Empire, where they met Montezuma, the ruler of the Aztec Empire, in what would be considered a welcoming gesture. Montezuma allowed Cortés and his men to stay in the capital city of Tenochtitlan without any suspicion that these visitors from afar were there to steal their gold and enslave their people. The Aztecs had a rich culture and were skilled astronomers, mathematicians, and architects. They created a complex society with a well-organized government, a sophisticated religion, and a thriving economy. The Aztecs also had many accomplishments that we still use today, such as their calendar system, which was incredibly accurate for its time period. They also developed a writing system and made significant advances in medicine and surgery. The Aztec Empire was a powerful force in Mesoamerica for over 200 years, until it was conquered by the Spanish in the early 16th century. But the legacy of this great civilization lives on in the culture, art, and history of Mexico and the rest of the Americas. What if I told you that the Spanish weren't the only ones to blame for the fall of the Aztec Empire? A recent study has found that the Aztecs also played a role in their own demise. About the last battle of the Aztec Empire and how they brought it on themselves. One day, the Spanish General Cortés decided to visit the local market, and he was shocked at what he saw. There were all kinds of strange foods being sold there that he had never seen before, like a type of grass with a white flower that tasted like cilantro, something that looks like a tiny mango but tastes like a small orange, and a fruit called a vomit fruit because it tastes like eggnog, where grandma added too much nutmeg. He bought some of the grass and some of the little mongoose, and he took them back to the capital, where he shared them with his men. And while he enjoyed the taste of these new foods, the same could not be said about his men. One bite of the strange grass, and they immediately fell violently ill and couldn't stop throwing up. And when they ate the fruit that tasted like eggnog, they got diarrhea so bad that they thought they were going to die. It turned out that these foods had been poisoned by the Aztecs, and there was a reason behind it. When Cortés arrived in Tenochtitlan, he and his men lavished praise on the Aztec emperor Montezuma, calling him a great lord and showering him with gifts. In return, Montezuma welcomed them with open arms and gave them everything they asked for. He even let them stay in the finest palaces in the city. But it wasn't long before the conquistadors started taking advantage of the emperor's hospitality. They began stealing from the Aztecs and even attacking the locals. When Montezuma tried to stop them, he was ignored or simply brushed off. And this made the Aztecs angry, and they wanted revenge. So when Cortés and his men started getting sick after eating the food from the market, they knew that they had been poisoned, but they didn't know who was responsible. It wasn't until later that they found out that it was the Aztecs. And by then, it was too late. The conquistadors retaliated by burning down the city's marketplace and killing several Aztecs. This sparked a full-blown war between the two civilizations. The Aztecs fought bravely against the Spanish, but they were no match for the conquistadors' superior weapons and tactics. Within a few years, the Spanish had conquered the entire Aztec Empire. There are many theories about why the Aztecs poisoned the conquistadors, but the most popular one is that they did it to protect their land and people from being taken advantage of. The Aztecs had a long history of resisting outside invaders, and they were willing to do whatever it took to protect their homeland. Poisoning the conquistadors was a risky move, but it was one that the Aztecs were prepared to take. Another theory is that the Aztecs did it to get rid of the conquistadors once and for all. The Spanish had already killed several Aztecs, and they were getting ready to invade the city of Tenochtitlan. The Aztecs knew that they couldn't defeat the conquistadors in battle, so they decided to try poisoning them instead. Again, it was a risky move, but one that the Aztecs were willing to take. But it wasn't just the Aztecs who were fighting in this war. There were also several Native American tribes that sided with the Spanish. These tribes had been in conflict with the Aztecs for years, and they saw the Spanish as an opportunity to get back at their enemies. The Spanish also recruited many Native Americans to their cause, either willingly or through force. This created a large army of soldiers that the Aztecs simply couldn't match. In the end, the Aztec Empire was no match for the Spanish conquistadors. The Spanish were able to conquer the entire empire in just a few years, and the Aztec culture and civilization was wiped out almost completely. Only a handful of Aztecs survived the conquest, and they had to hide in the jungles of Mexico to avoid being killed. So why should you care about this ancient conflict? Because it has had a lasting impact on the world we live in today. If the Aztecs had won the war, then the Americas would be a very different place today. There would be a thriving Aztec civilization in Mexico and the surrounding areas. And there is a good chance that the Aztecs would have eventually conquered all of Mesoamerica. Now let us go back in time to the year 1520. You are standing in the middle of the Aztec capital city of Tenochtitlan. Around you are towering pyramids, bustling marketplaces, and noble palaces. It is a city unlike any other. You meet a young Aztec named Itzcoatl. He is a member of the merchant class and is responsible for bringing goods from all over the empire to the capital. He is a hard worker, but he is also a curious and intelligent man. He has heard rumors of the Spanish and their strange customs, and he wants to learn more. When he learns that the Spanish have arrived in the city, he decides to sneak into their camp and spy on them. What he sees there shocks him. The Spanish are dirty and unkempt, and their manners are crude. They are also armed with weapons that the Aztecs have never seen before, and they seem to be looking for trouble. Itzcoatl decides to warn the Aztec emperor, Moctezuma, but when he tells him what he has seen, the emperor doesn't believe him. Moctezuma is a proud man, and he believes that the Aztecs are the greatest civilization in the world. He can't believe that these outsiders are a threat to his people. As the story progresses, Itzcoatl tries to convince Moctezuma that the Spanish are a danger to the Aztec Empire, but the emperor refuses to listen. The Spanish are invited to the capital and given everything they want. They are allowed to stay in the finest palaces in the city, and they are given access to the Aztec's vast wealth. But the Spanish don't appreciate the Aztec hospitality. They begin stealing from the locals, and they even attack the Aztecs. When Moctezuma tries to stop them, he is ignored or simply brushed aside. The Aztecs become furious, and they begin plotting ways to get rid of the Spanish. One day, the Aztecs decide to poison the Spanish. They put poison in the food and drink of the Spanish soldiers, and they watch as they fall ill and die. The Spanish are furious and they declare war on the Aztecs. The two armies clash in the streets of Tenochtitlan, and the fighting is fierce. But the Spanish are victorious and they begin to conquer the Aztec Empire. As the story reaches its climax, Itzcoatl realizes that the Aztecs brought this war on themselves. Their refusal to listen to reason and their arrogance ultimately led to their destruction. The story ends with the fall of the Aztec Empire and the death of Moctezuma. Itzcoatl is one of the few Aztecs to survive the conquest, and he spends his remaining days telling the story of his people so that future generations will learn from their mistakes.